Many people have asked me to talk about ghost stories. And the reason for that is that I used to live in a haunted house. Now, how would I know I used to live in a haunted house? Well, a number of ways. Maybe I should explain a little bit. Originally, that was our commune. Um, Four guys rented a rather large two-story apartment, and we took all the doors off, including the bedroom doors and the bathroom doors, and we called it our commune. And in many ways it was. I think we all threw in $50 a month for food. And if there was any left at the end of the month, I remember we used to buy pizza, but I think we used to buy some marijuana too before we ordered the pizza. And then we doubled the order, usually. Okay. So, at any rate, yeah, I don't know. Do you think I should tell them that? I probably shouldn't tell the address because it may be horrible for house prices. Who wants to buy a haunted house, really? But then again, it's not on the agreement, is it? They're not guaranteeing that you're not going to be inheriting some ghosts. But anyway, yeah, so it was on Eastwood Road in Toronto. And Eastwood Road, you may already know this, is the easterly extension of Gerrard Street, just east of Coxwell. At that point, Gerrard Street ends and restarts one block north. And locals call those two parts Upper Gerrard and Lower Gerrard, but they're both Gerrard Street East. Means nothing. So at any rate, I believe that property once was a golf course or something, and that's why they couldn't get in there. But at any rate, there was also a large cemetery there, which is adjacent to the church that I attend. So at any rate, we were living in the commune, and they had warned me before I joined the group. One of the group was being excommunicated because he kept a rifle under his bed. And we thought, I have nothing against rifles and shotguns for people who can actually use them for sport or for food. That's the perfect thing. Our native population, that's how they traditionally have survived, and that's a great thing. But assault rifles, handguns, but even having a gun in the house of someone I believed to be mentally unstable was very very disconcerting. Now, this gentleman who we kicked out, by the way, a couple of years later was charged with whatever the equivalent of vehicular homicide would be, because he hit a pedestrian up in the northwest part of Toronto and dragged her for more than half a kilometer under his car as she screamed. Horrible. Ooh. At any rate, I think he spent a long time in jail, as he should have. So, at any rate, that's not the ghost story. The ghost story is about this house on Eastwood Road, and it's not actually on Eastwood Road, but that's another story in itself. But the point is that it was a very old house. It was one of the first houses in the neighborhood, if not the first house, because it appeared to be an old farmhouse that had been converted. And it turns out our next door neighbor knew all about this because he had bought and built the house next door. And he remembers that just after World War I, mentioned this, there was a big housing shortage, so the old farmhouse was converted into 2 apartments. And I thought, well, of course, that makes perfect sense. Now, by the way, I never told you who our neighbor was downstairs. So there was the main floor, which was a separate apartment, and then the top 2 floors, the attic of which, of course, had a peaked roof, and where all the ghostly action was, by the way. But at any rate, on the main floor, our neighbor was Mose Scarlet. Mose Scarlet. Yeah, that's actually another story. Won't really get into Mose Scarlet. I could tell some very amusing stories about Mose Scarlet if anyone's interested. At any rate, we are living in this commune, and strange things are happening. And so someone had the bright idea of holding a seance. But what was even dumber than that bright idea was holding a seance in a haunted house. And even dumber than that was holding a seance in a haunted house using a Ouija board. Could you imagine? Yeah, well, it didn't end well. But that's actually not the story. That's just the beginning of the story. So the beginning of the story, and if we're doing the script for the movie, we'd probably start off with that seance, and that would really make the audience want to think about a whole bunch of different things. So, but we can get into that later. But then, here's one happened. After that, we had a lot of activity. Now, since I'm supposed to be a good storyteller, I'm going to save the best for last, because I got to tell you, before the seance broke up, a lot of poop hit the fan up there in the third floor attic. And stuff I wouldn't believe if someone told me, and other stuff we could actually prove. So it was really quite an interesting and unusual time. So anyway, what strange things happened? Well, at that time I was like underemployed to the point where I was on the on what do they call that? Well, they used to call it unemployment insurance. But anyway, I was on the dole. I was collecting from the government, which, by the way, I'd paid into. And I wasn't getting up terribly early for a variety of reasons. And I remember awaking one morning and being aware of a lot happening in the next room, which happened to be the kitchen, the commune's kitchen. But usually there were no noises. So, I mean, the whole thing was, it was in the middle of summer. It was quite hot. All the windows were open. I could hear the bugs outside. And in the kitchen, I could hear like someone is making a huge breakfast. There are platters and there's whooshing noises, and it was just busy, busy, busy. And I thought, what the hell is that? So I get out of bed and go running naked, as a matter of interest. I used to look a lot better then. And I come into the kitchen and nothing. You know, just the usual dishes in the sink. There's a small glass of orange juice. In the old days, we used to get frozen shrimp cocktail in this tiny wee little sundae glass, you might call it. Something that, if it had been larger, would have maybe held ice cream. And people used to keep them. And so we would use them for toasts, and we could use them for liquor shots. But mostly, we used to use them as a juice glass. So there was this juice glass that was full of orange juice that was on the table. And I really didn't focus on that right away because I had been withdrawn from my rest by the noise going on in the kitchen, which had now ceased. So as I'm sort of silently looking around the room, I do spot the orange juice in the glass, only because it was heading my way. It was actually sliding along the table, and it ended up crashing on the floor. And it was crashed towards me, but I don't believe I was the intended target, but who knows. So at any rate, things like that. Oh, you know what happened? Oh, the smell of sulfur. I forgot about this one. You would smell sulfur, and I don't know if that means anything. It probably does, but and we would have things happen. Here's something. The first day I moved in, and there was again, I hear footsteps up the first set of stairs, right? Because we were living above Moat Scarlet. Up the first set of stairs, and I can hear that. I'm in my bed. First night I'm sleeping, so it's woken me up. And my friend Mark, who had arranged for me to join the commune, said, at least I was expecting it to be him. So when I heard that noise and walking upstairs, okay, that's Mark. That's not a problem. And he even went upstairs. He walked along the hallway, and he was above my head. He was in the loft area above my head, and I could hear him walking around, and doing the usual sort of things that Mark used to do. And then I heard a strange sound. I heard a 4-cylinder, horizontally opposed engine that was air-cooled. And it was in a Volkswagen Beetle, one of the really old Beetles, with all the extra stuff. To check the battery. The battery was under the back seat, and you had to open the back to fill the gas tank. I mean, it was just disgusting. But at any rate, I heard it going up the driveway, and sure enough, there was Mark Maneri. I look out the window. Mark Maneri is heading, and he comes up the stairs, and I said, Mark, I thought you were home already. He said, no. I said, I heard steps and, someone upstairs. Oh, he said, oh. He said, that's Fred. And I said, oh, does he live here too? And he said, why don't we sit down and I'll tell you a story. And the story was about this person called Fred, about, what else was it? Oh yeah, about how he became a ghost, and how all this sort of weaved into our commune that we were living in. By the way, at this point, I'd just like to tell you that shortly after these incidents happened, I met my wife. And within about 6 months, well, I didn't know she was my wife at the time, but that's an old joke. Anyway, I met the woman who it turned out to be my wife, only because the Pope told us that we had to get married, and that in itself is another story. At any rate, it was this time that I met this woman who became my wife and is now still my wife. I'm very pleased to say she's a beautiful woman with a marvelous intellect, and she's further left than I am, so we always argue who's going to sit on the left. I mean, what can I say? So listen, I've been carrying on and telling really bad jokes, but I know you want to hear about Fred. So to hear about Fred, I have to take a break, and I'll come back at some point. I'm not sure it's going to be the same time, but come back at some point, and I'll tell you all about Fred. Okay, cheers, 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 cheers.